Chapter 118 Choose One. With all this said and done, what do you all think? Be honest, I don't want to have to beat around the bush again. Han Li coldly said. It seemed he wasn't influenced by Lady Yan's act in the slightest. Lady Yan wrinkled her brow. The youth in her presence was far more difficult than she had anticipated. Neither hard nor soft methods were effective, rather, she had no way of knowing how to deal with him. Could it be that you truly want us to immediately hand over our last resort and reveal our affairs to the enemy? Lady Yan was somewhat unresigned. With the many years of handling the fearsome Flood Dragon Association's power, she clearly understood when to be a bit lenient and when to immediately put one entire hand on the table. She turned her head to look at fifth wife Wang. Within these sisters, only Lady Wang was able to oppose her decisions. Therefore, she looked at her to see whether or not Lady Wang had a proposal. The matter of discussion with this person, I will leave to fourth sister, with whom I have no objections whatsoever. Lady Wang saw the meaning in Lady Yan's gaze and said, as cold as ice. When Lady Yan heard this, she was inwardly elated and had somewhat calmed her heart. Very well. Since Sir does not want to beat around the bush, then we sisters will get right to the point and directly tell you the conditions. As these words left Lady Yan's mouth, she completely regained her bearings as the leader of one of Jia Yuan City's three major gangs. The feeling of that delicate, powerless young married woman from before was completely obliterated. Her body dispersed the prestige of a leader. Good. From the beginning, I wanted to engage in talks as equals. Han Li faintly smiled. So long as you exterminate the fearsome Flood Dragon Association's sworn enemies, the Rainbow Sect and the Hegemon's Villa, the Mo estate will no longer trouble you in the future, and we will also immediately offer you the precious warm Yang Jade. Furthermore, we will let you choose one of our daughters, whomever you fancy, as your wife. However, if you're unyielding in your plan rob the precious jade from us, or perhaps threaten us sisters, then your esteemed self will have been mistaken. I have already handed over the precious jade to my trusted confidant. If there is the slightest sign of trouble, then it will immediately be destroyed, ending us in mutual destruction. Lady Yan said with an imposing expression. Lady Yan, are you not afraid of the wind cutting your tongue? Have me, this one person, exterminate the Rainbow Sect and the Hegemon's Villa? You must be truly absurd for thinking of this. Han Li seemed to have already anticipated Lady Yan's threat and wasn't alarmed at all. He had already known that the precious warm Yang Jade could not be acquired by acting rashly. Aside from their threats, he still didn't know how many secret recruits they harbored, and thus capturing the other party and interrogating the whereabouts of the precious jade would simply end in failure. It would be best to make the other party willingly give it to him. Young Master Han, are you not a cultivator? How could these people of Jianghu be a match against your distinguished self? In addition, we don't want you to kill the gang in its entirety. Causing a few of their main leaders to disappear would be enough. This time, the gorgeous young third wife, after giving Han Li a soul-shaking, enchanting smile, said this with her graceful voice. What about being a cultivator? I don't know of other cultivators, but I do know of my own abilities with clear certainty. You can't just foolishly send one person to confront a large gang of several thousand members. Do you all truly believe that cultivators can outrageously murder ordinary people without fear of repercussion? Han Li coldly glanced at third wife. The awing chilliness froze her smiling expression. Under the effects of the eternal spring arts and a vigilant mind, he returned the gaze of her bewitching charming technique. How could it possibly affect him? Why? Does young master mean that there are limitations to what cultivators can do to ordinary people? Lady Yan asked, somewhat surprised by this revelation. I am not very certain of the specific details. After all, I haven't been a cultivator for long, so I wasn't truly in contact with these rules. Han Li dully said. Then he looked at Lady Yan, who looked as if she wanted to say something, and waved his hand, preventing her from talking. He continued coldly, however, if your brains aren't lacking, it should be clear that cultivators can't act against mortals as they desire. After all, your so-called land province's 3 great hegemons and the 3 great gangs of Jia Yuan City still exist. They could have fallen to the schemes of unrighteous cultivators countless times. Perhaps even beautiful women like yourselves would have already become their playthings. Han Li's final sentence was completely blunt, turning the wives' complexions across from him to become scarlet and their eyes to show a bit of alarm. But this is merely young master's guess. It's not at all certain to be true. Lady Han was still somewhat unwilling, still attempting to persuade Han Li. So long as there is the possibility, this person will not perform actions that would bring destruction upon himself. Han Li fundamentally did not give Lady Yan's fantasies the slightest leeway, and he said this without a trace of politeness. Don't tell me that your venerable self plans to take our daughter's dowry with a sleight of hand and leave us with nothing? Lady Yan's complexion was somewhat unsightly. She said the word dowry with an especially heavy emphasis. Hearing her say this, although Han Li's expression did not change, his heart could not help but be somewhat depressed. The yin poison within me was originally given to me by your lord husband. Right now, I won't trouble you even if I am cured. What is there to think about? Han Li thought somewhat hatefully. However, Han Li knew if he were to say these words at this moment, these wives would not take it well and certainly wouldn't give him the precious warm yang jade. As a result, Han Li gave in and muttered to himself. Then he raised his hand, cleared his throat, and said with a clear voice, I will give you 2 choices. Choose whichever you fancy. One is to have your Mo estate immediately pack your baggage and prepare to travel far from the land province. Find a place where the power of your enemy clans cannot reach you and live as a common wealthy household. You would live the rest of your lives peacefully and completely separate yourselves from the fights between Jiang Hu's factions. This entire journey will be safe, I completely guarantee it. Any forces that your enemies send to pursue you will unable to harm you. Han Li stopped there and looked at the change in the wives' expressions. Apart from a slight change from second wife Li, Lady Yan and third wife Lu were completely silent. It was clear what they thought of the proposal. Han Li didn't feel the need to look at fifth wife Wang since it would be impossible to make out anything useful from her icy appearance. Han Li looked at this situation and inwardly sneered several times. Lady Yan and Lady Lu were rather ambitious people. It was impossible for them to want to give up the power of the fearsome Flood Dragon Association and live as rural village women. When he had raised this proposal, he already understood this clearly. And the other choice? Third wife Lu noticed that Han Li stopped and could not but question him. There is one other choice. Han Li left his chair and stood. He looked up to the room before slowly telling the wives the other choice.